Hello and welcome to Bookish Meet the Authors, part of the In the Limelight Network. I'm your host, Nyssa Couto, and joining me today is Ximena Yanez Soto to talk about her book, Healthy Planet, Healthy You, Simple Habits to Create a Brighter Future. Hi, Ximena. How are you?
Hi, Nyssa. Thank you. I'm very good. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really honored. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on the show. So for 23 years, you were a CFO for a Mexican environmental fund. And now you're a holistic health coach and author. Very different ends of the spectrum. What motivated you to make such a radical change?
You know, when I think about it, it was just like a couple of months ago, somebody asked me that question. But when I did that change, radical change, I didn't thought about it as a radical change because I studied to be a public accountant in Mexico. And I didn't like my career that much, but I had the opportunity to work in an environmental fund, which I was just in love with nature and doing something for the environment on the planet. So I keep that career because I was working in that environmental fund. Yeah. Then 7 years ago, we moved to Denver, Colorado. And, you know, we now can work remotely because of the pandemic and all the things going on. But back then, 7 years ago, working remotely was not an option. No. So they let me stay for a couple of years until my boss retired. Mm-hmm. But I had to start looking for something to do here in Denver. So I start thinking because when I was the CFO of this environmental fund, I used to work behind the computer and I used to set all the rules and I used to tell people what to do. I didn't care about their feelings or what they were thinking. I didn't care about that. And I kind of regret it because they called me at the office, Dr. No, secretly.
Oh, wow.
Doctor, because I was,
okay.
I was used to tell everybody what to do. Mm-hmm. I set the rules. Yeah. So I thought maybe I should change a little bit. And I was just going around my life. I was just recalling the events of my life. And then I remembered I used to be sick. I think since I was maybe 14 till I was 40, I was sick all the time. And the thing that was a wake-up call, I ended up going to the cardiologist, and she was coming with my results and telling me what was wrong with me for, you know, the 100th time. Like I used to be sick all the time. So she came with my results and she told me, you have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. This means that your pressure, your blood pressure, your body cannot regulate its blood pressure. So normally people faint with that. But in your case, your heart wants to come and do something. So it starts pumping a lot. So that's why you are so tired and you're always like feeling like you're fainting and you're so tired. So you'll have to take a pill for the rest of your life. And I was like, what? I'm used to be sick, but I take a medicine and then I'm good. Like something for the rest of my life was, I'm not going to do that. I have 2 little girls. Like I have to be okay. So I asked her, isn't there a diet or something that can help me? And she said, there's no relation between what you eat and your health, at least in your case. And I was like, what? But she said, okay, never mind, go try a diet by yourself, go find something, come back to me in 2 months. You'll see that there's nothing you can do through diet. And then you come in 2 months and then I'll give you the pills. And I started researching and reading and doing things. I changed my diet. It was a good diet already, but I didn't know I was eating a lot of things I shouldn't be eating. Yeah. And then I came back 2 months later and she was like, what did you do? Like, what you did is what all my patients need to do. So I remember that episode of my life and I said, maybe I can start helping people because sometimes we're misled by doctors. Like in my case, like food and health had nothing to do with each other. Like, how can they be telling us that? So then I thought, maybe when I close this chapter of my life with the environmental fund, I can become a health coach and start helping people. And I can still be hand on hand with the environment. Maybe I can bring together something that goes in between our health and the health of the planet.
But
so that's why, sorry?
But they do go hand in hand, don't they? Like,
they do go hand in hand. Sometimes we don't see it.
Yeah.
And that's why we eat how we eat today.
Yeah.
Because if we saw the relationship, we would be eating differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I don't feel like I changed radically, because my passion was not to be an accountant, but was not the numbers. My passion was the environment.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing things for the environment.
Yeah, but when you show it as a snapshot, like you do, like you see, oh, this is where her career was, this is where she ended up.
Yeah.
It does feel very radical, but you as a person going through the journey have all the connections.
Yeah, exactly. So I just feel I'm another step ahead. Like, I'm just in the same path, a little different. Some people say radically, but for me, it's just a little difference. I'm still here.
Think about it. You went from working in a job that was about the environment, doing environmental field, right, to then incorporating health into it. It's they kind of do go hand in hand. It's not so radical. I think it's the fact that it's the words CFO and fund are where people are like, oh, that doesn't go together. So through this journey, what inspired you then to write the book?
Well, I was just struggling how to bring those two worlds together. And I remember I woke up one morning crying because I had a dream that had given me the answer I was looking for. A couple of months ago, I've seen Greta Thunberg giving a speech. Yeah. I think it was on Facebook. And she was very mad at governments and corporations. Yeah. And she was talking about the grim future her generation, which my daughters are part of, will have if we didn't start making the urgent changes we need to make. So I was still working for the environmental fund, and I was like, oh, I'm doing my part. I know I'm doing my part. But, these little boys kept coming and asking, are you doing your part? Are you doing? Oh, yes, I'm working in this environmental fund. And then I had this dream.
She needed to be like, hey, you need to do more. This is like that.
Yeah, I had something, punching my brain and picking my brain, right? Yeah. Like, are you sure? Yeah. So one day I had this dream, and I dreamt about a little girl. I think the girl had like Greta Thunberg's eyes. Like, they were on fire. And she was asking me, she was kind of angry and sad. And I was like, I don't know who this girl is, but somehow in dreams, you're related to some people. So I knew she was related to me. I think she was my great granddaughter, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, everything's going to be okay. I told her, because I was kind of uncomfortable in that dream. And then she said, is it? Are you doing the things you need to do to make this world a better place? And then suddenly I was just waking up, and I was just crying. No, I'm not doing the things I need to do to make this world a better place. I'm just putting myself behind this shield, saying I'm working in an environmental fund, but am I doing in my house the things I need to start doing to make this world a better place, to leave this place better than my parents gave it to me?
Yeah.
So I just woke up crying, and I knew that I had to do something. So I started to do some research around, when they start saying about the things we could do about climate change. One of the things was like in between lines and very hidden, reduce your meat consumption.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm gonna do some research to see what does eating meat has to do. And then I started this research, and the things I found, they were just like, wow. So we're eating things that we shouldn't be eating in the amounts we're eating them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key for climate change, because we hear in a lot of places, like, we have to spend a lot of money, trillions of dollars to innovate, to bring some technologies to reverse climate change. I think we can start in our homes, little by little, just making little changes in our daily lives.
Yeah.
Right. So I was inspired to write this book, to bring this knowledge to all the people, all the people around the world, just to make little changes that can contribute to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
That's and what do you think is the missing piece that led humanity to the crisis of weight loss and chronic diseases?
Yeah, and it goes hand in hand.
Not weight loss, weight gain, overweight.
Weight gain and all the environmental crises, they go hand in hand. You know, I'm amazed by kids now, because they ask everything. When I was a kid, you weren't allowed to ask. You did as you were said. Like, you have to do this, and you did that.
Whole
because
seen, not heard mentality.
Exactly. And now kids, they ask everything, and I'm just surprised. Why, if they ask everything, if they want explanations for everything, we have this problem about overweight and overweight in children, and all these diseases that were known to be adult diseases, and now they're having them. Why, if they're asking so much? Which is the question they are not asking. And the question they are not asking is, why do I have to eat this? And it comes to me like, I think in nature, moms and newborns, they make this connection through the limbic brain, where the newborns feel they're protected, they're nourished. And then the mom task is to teach them how to survive.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a natural question for kids, because we're connected through the limbic brain, and they're just following what the mom does. And they ask everything, but they're not asking that question. So I think the missing piece right now is asking, why am I eating this? Because we just hear from our doctors or our neighbors or our parents, like, you have to eat your proteins. And when I say protein,
everyone thinks
comes
meat.
to your mind
Meat.
is animal product.
Yeah, but it's not true.
That's not true. But they're not asking that. So the missing piece is, even though that this is a generation of human beings that are asking and questioning everything, they're not asking or questioning the most important question, which is, why should I eat this? Why this?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's, you don't ask, you don't think about it too.
Yeah, you don't think about it because somebody taught you, mostly your mom or your caregiver.
Your culture or whatever it is, like a culture who's very eats a lot of meat. It's very hard to change that diet.
Exactly. And we're eating more meat than when I was a child. Mm-hmm. Meat was like kind of 2 days per week or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't have that much meat. Now we have animal products at least 3 times every day.
Yeah.
So that's taking a toll in the environment, but also is making us sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you can see, a lot of times when people get older, for example, people who used to love eating cheese realize as they get older, it's not that their body can't digest it as easily as before, or dairy in general, like you have to start cutting it. Or you start realizing that a lot of chronic diseases, you realize anything that you have that deals with inflammation, you realize that dairy products are not good for you. You should cut those out, sugar, carbs. But it's interesting that you don't start to realize that unless it becomes an issue. Then you start to pay attention.
Exactly. You don't think about prevention. You think about just curing something that's already there. So it just amazed me how these kids nowadays, kids are asking a lot of questions, are questioning the status quo, and they're not asking this. And they're sick. and they're depressed and they're obese and they're why are they not asking that? And I think it's just a thing. You don't ask those things because you are something in your survival brain tells you that that's the thing you should eat. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned protein. Now, why is the protein myth not only making us sick, but contributing largely to climate change?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that might shock you, but if every person in the world ate the way we eat in Western countries, we would need 7 planet Earths.
Wow.
We're doing a lot of damage. The only way to supply that demand for animal products is using industrial farming, which is causing a lot of things to go around the world. One is greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah.
Of course, to put in place these industrial farms, we have to tear down some forests or some trees. Yeah. So by tearing down those forests,
which we
need, but when we tear down them, we liberate some carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. But we have another 2 gases that are very dangerous and are greenhouse gas emissions, and they're heating the atmosphere, which are methane and nitrous oxide. And those 2 come from agricultural practices. Like methane has to do a lot, everything to do with livestock. And nitrous oxide has to do with fertilizers and pesticides that are used to feed those animals. So 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture. Yeah, which is a lot. And then we're also polluting the soil and the air. It's not just the greenhouse gas emissions. They pollute the air. Can you imagine we have these industrial farms with a lot of manure that has to be managed in some way? Because in nature, everything is part of the natural cycle. Yeah. Like if the cows are going around, they poop, and everything comes part of the cycle. Yeah. But in industrial farmings, they have to manage that. So they put it into pools with water, try to manage the manure that way. And sometimes they spread the manure in places, in open spaces. So that pollutes, and then it goes to the water. Yeah, so it's doing a lot of harm. Like in water, like places near industrial farms, you can't drink water from the
very faucet. Contaminated. I would assume. Yeah,
very contaminated.
Yeah. So, and it's something simple too. It's like if we can limit, and it's not that we have, if you don't want to cut out completely, but at least limit how much meat you eat.
Exactly.
Start cutting. Exactly. I've heard something along the lines of like, once a week, don't eat meat, or a meal, or just cut 1 or 2 things. Yeah. And it will make a difference. It doesn't have to be extreme, at least now, but as long as you make a practice of doing something small, it will make a huge difference.
That's why it's simple changes. It's not easy, no, but it's simple. You can do one per week. And the thing is that if we start switching from industrial farmings to regenerative farmings or holistic farms, where the cows are free and they go and walk, everything starts to become part of the natural cycle. And we can have that meat from cows that are eating what naturally are meant to eat, which is grass instead of grains.
For us too. Also,
that would be better for us too.
Chemicals back into our body that they're eating, we're putting it back into our.
Exactly. We're eating right now from industrial farming. The cows are sick. That's why they give these cows a lot of antibiotics because they are sick. So if we have healthy cows eating their natural food, which is grass, we will be healthy. The planet will be healthier because they like methane. We have a lot of methane going to the atmosphere from the manure they have to manage. But we also have the enteric fermentation from cows, which is a natural thing, and we're not going to lose that. But we can reduce it. And if we have these holistic farms, the animals are just walking around, they contribute to heal the soils too. When you heal the soil can trap some carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But now, right now, our soils are depleted because we're just doing monocrops, which is not natural. Like just have one species is not natural. But when you have a lot of species and you have cows and chickens and everything going around, you start healing the soils. And those soils, when they're good, when they're healthy, they can trap carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So we can do a lot of things. But the thing is that if we do that holistic farming, we wouldn't have the amount of meat that we eat today.
Yeah.
We naturally will have to reduce it.
Yeah, but also we don't need to eat as much meat as we're eating.
We don't need to eat as much.
So we probably already touched upon this, but what are 3 things we can do to eat our way to a healthier versions of ourselves and while taking care of the planet?
Yeah, of course, one is reduce, as you say. It's not like you don't have to change everything like 100%. Reduce your animal consumption and put more fruits and vegetables and legumes and whole grains in your plate. Because the thing is that we're sick because we're putting a lot of animal products and we're leaving out a lot of foods that have information for our bodies. Yeah. Fruits and vegetables, they have a lot of good information for our bodies. So we're leaving that out when we put a lot of animal protein.
Also look, historically, we became healthier when we started eating more vegetables and stuff. Like you see people like the sailors who used to go on ships, they got scurvy. They didn't have access to fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. They didn't have access to vitamin C, for example. So
you know that it's important. We just seem to ignore it.
Exactly. So when you reduce your meat consumption, put more veggies on your plate. Like that's going to be good for you. That's going to be great. Then reduce eating processed foods because they also contribute to carbon dioxide, and it's around 30 to 40%. The scientists believe that all things that have to do with food, making the food, transporting the food, it accounts for around 30 to 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions.
Wow, that's a lot.
So yeah, if we and those are foods that they have no information for your body. They're charged. We're full with omega-6, which we need. We need omega-3s and omega-6, but we needed them in a balance, like one to one. And because omega-6, you can have a lot of products in your pantry, and they can live there for 3 months, for example. They use omega-6 because they live longer than omega-3s. So right now we're eating around, from omega-3s and omega-6, we eat 1 to 17. And omega-6, they, which is a good thing, they make you inflame, because we need inflammation when we hit ourselves, when we're hurt, so we need those omega-6 to come when we have an infection or something going on. Yeah. But then we need the omega-3s to come back and bring down that inflammation. But as we're having this relation from 1 to 17, we're all the time inflamed. So if we keep eating processed foods, we're going to keep being inflamed. Yeah. We're going to keep being sick, obese, and all those things. So reduce that, because actually it contributes also to greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah. And the last thing I would say is ask, be curious. Mm-hmm. Like when our doctors tell us, you need to eat more protein. Okay, I'll do that. You need to eat more meat. Like, we're not asking why. Why should I be eating more meat? Or protein? What is protein? Like, we're not used to ask things around food. Somebody tells us what to do and we do it without asking. We need to start asking, why should I do this? Why should I take this pill? Why should I just question?
Yeah, it also is, like you said, or a doctor turns to it and says, oh, there's nothing that can be done through diet. Yet, before we had the medications we have now, what did we use to heal? Fruits, vegetable, herbs, whatever Like that, those foods
Exactly.
have those properties because they were the first things that were used for medication, for prevention, for whatever it was. It was food.
Yeah. And they grew with us, like they evolved with us. So
Yeah.
they communicate with us through the microbiome. So those are foods that have the information for our microbiome to be healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think fruits and vegetables and legumes and those foods are just amazing for health because they have the clue to get healthy again. If we eat a lot of animal products and processed foods, we don't have that information.
No. And where can people find you in your book?
Yeah, well, you can find me. I have a website. It is www.believetransformb.com. You can find me there. You can find my book there. My book is also on Amazon or all these online stores, Barnes and Noble, and all of those stores. But it's on Amazon.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Ximena, for joining me today. It was lovely having you on the show. I wish you
Thank you.
continued success.
Thank you. Thank you, Nyssa. It was just such a pleasure to be with you and talk to you and share. That's
It was great. There was a lot to learn. And thank you everyone for joining me, and see you next time on Bookish. Meet the authors. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.